screen grabs from your Borowitz Report here, and we can go through some.
Okay.
If people are familiar with some of these. These are recent GOP unveils own healthcare website, emergencyroom.gov.
Yeah, the site works great. There's no wait time if you don't count like the 18 to 36 hours in the emergency room.
What else?
It's actually.
Cruz, the dream of keeping poor people from seeing a doctor must never die.
Yes, that was almost like his "I Have a Dream" speech. You know, it was like
Obama promises Syria strike will have no objective.
you know that.
So you go both sides here.
I do go both sides, but that really isn't fake news as it was like just a day early. You know, it's because like the next day he was like, John Kerry was saying, I want to promise the strike will be incredibly minuscule. Like, dude, good way to make the enemy scared as shit, you know.
Test a few missiles, yeah.
I can do anything. Oh, this is
a big one.
Story.
It's got a lot of shares on this one.
Of shares.
G20 ends abruptly as Obama calls Putin a jackass.
Yes. This was one where
306,000.
Yeah, I think most of those people were sharing it because they believed it was true. We had a very convincing photo of him sort of walking away from Putin.
And that brings me to my point here. Some of your stories are taken for fact and reported as news by international news agencies. China recently.
Xinhua, yes.
Xinhua News. This next story is the one I think that they circulated as fact. Amazon founder says he clicked on Washington Post by mistake.
Yes, this was re-reported by Xinhua as true. Now, just to put this in some perspective, folks, Xinhua, I believe, is the #1 news agency in China. China is a very prominent country, so it has a lot of people in it. So, I mean, actually, a lot of people read that in America, the founder of Amazon bought the Washington Post for like $100 million as part of a huge online shopping goof. Like it was one click and he somehow wound up with the Washington Post. So I don't know, you know, I've been wondering about this, Scott, like is it that, first of all you can say, well maybe there's something that's lost in translation, you know, maybe the Chinese are not quite seeing what you're doing here. But my other question is my reporting just getting more realistic, or is the world getting more absurd? Or are the two sort of converging? Like maybe my reporting is just not as satirical. It's just more like I'm just seeing sort of what's going on. I'm just typing it down.
Just stating the truth baldly.
I'm just stating the truth baldly, exactly.
BorowitzReport.com.
The one, you know, there were a lot of stories, there have been a lot of stories in the last few months that were reported as true by other news outlets. But I think my favorite one was I did a story right around the time of our early in the election cycle when Spitzer and Weiner were both announcing for office, and they were both actually doing really well in the polls. Remember that initially? So I did a story about Silvio Berlusconi deciding that he was going to come to New York and run for public advocate. And what I loved about this was it was re-reported as real news by an Italian newspaper owned by Silvio Berlusconi. So you can't, I just should have quit right there.
Yeah, that's...